Before we begin tonight's tale, I have one request for you, wolves. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing how far our pack reaches under the same moon. Whether you're in New York, London, or Manila, your howl matters here. Now, let's dive in. Arya had always been invisible. At least, that's how it felt. Every day she worked behind the counter of moonlit pages, the little bookstore tucked on Crescent Fall's quiet Main Street. The air always smelled faintly of old paper and cinnamon tea, and the same customers came in week after week, never truly seeing her. To them, she was the girl who stamped receipts and stacked shelves. Ordinary. Forgettable. But deep inside, Arya carried a secret. Every time she slid a romance novel onto the shelf, the ones with heroines swept off their feet by powerful alphas and dangerous lovers, she would glance at the boy she'd known since childhood and wonder why her own heart beat harder for him. Marcus. He had been her best friend since they were 7 years old. Back then, they'd climbed trees, scraped knees, and whispered secrets under starlit skies. Now, at 23, Marcus worked at his uncle's garage, all grease-stained hands and an easy grin that made other girls lean closer. But not her. To Marcus, Arya was still the sidekick. The gaming buddy. The girl who could beat him at Mario Kart but would never be the one he kissed goodnight. At least, that's what she told herself as she pulled her oversized sweater tighter around her body. A shield. A disguise. She was a size 14 in a world that worshipped size 2s, and every mirror whispered the same cruel reminder, not enough. Still, there were moments. Moments when Marcus would drape his leather jacket over her shoulders on a chilly night, and she swore his hand lingered longer than it should. Moments when his amber eyes caught hers and something flickered there, protective, primal, almost dangerous, before he laughed it off like it was nothing. But lately, something was changing. It started with his dreams. Marcus had admitted, half-jokingly, that he'd been waking up breathless, sweating, as if he'd been running through forests he didn't recognize. He craved raw meat, hated the full moon, and grew restless under its glow. His shoulders had broadened in ways no gym membership could explain, and when he looked at her now, she felt more like prey than a friend. And yet, she couldn't look away. One evening, as the golden light of dusk spilled across Crescent Falls, Arya found herself tucked behind the counter of the shop, flipping through an old leather-bound diary someone had left in the donation box. Its pages smelled of age and secrets, its ink faded but legible. Her fingers trembled as she read. The Ashwood line will not die. On the 23rd year, beneath the blood moon, the alpha will rise again. His mate marked by fate, his wolf bound by desire. Her heart pounded. Ashwood. That was Marcus's mother's maiden name. A chill crawled down her spine as she closed the diary, the words echoing in her mind. Meanwhile, Marcus sat in his uncle's garage, wiping his hands on a rag. He stared at his reflection in the cracked mirror above the workbench. His jaw was sharper, his eyes too bright, his veins pulsing with something he couldn't explain. His uncle had been watching him closely these days, muttering warnings under his breath. The curse always finds its way back. Marcus clenched his fists. He didn't understand what was happening, but one thing was clear, every instinct screamed for him to protect Arya. To claim her. To never let her out of his sight. It terrified him as much as it thrilled him. Back in the bookstore, Arya glanced out the window, her breath fogging the glass. She saw Marcus walking down the street, tall and restless, his movements carrying a power she hadn't noticed before. Something primal. Something dangerous. And for the first time in her life, she wondered if her best friend, the boy who once held her hand when she was scared of thunderstorms, was becoming someone entirely new. No, not someone. Something. The blood moon was rising, and with it, secrets buried deep in the Ashwood line. Arya hugged the diary to her chest, her pulse wild. She didn't know it yet, but within 48 hours, Marcus would pin her against an oak tree under the silver light, his eyes glowing like fire, his massive frame trembling with desire he could no longer control. And she would have to decide, was she still invisible, or was she the only one who could tame the beast within him? The blood moon always carried whispers in Crescent Falls. Some called it superstition, others called it folklore. But the old women who sold herbs at the edge of the market swore it was a warning, the night of awakening, when bloodlines remember what they were meant to be. Arya didn't believe in curses. Or at least, she hadn't, until tonight. The crimson glow rose above the treetops, spilling across the town like liquid fire. From her bedroom window, Arya watched shadows stretch long and restless, her heart beating faster with every second. The diary lay open on her desk, the words scrawled across its faded pages as sharp as claws. On the 23rd year, beneath the blood moon, the Alpha will rise again. And Marcus had turned 23 just hours ago. The party had started innocently enough. A few friends gathered at O'Malley's bar, laughter spilling over cheap beer and old jukebox songs. Arya had worn her safest sweater, her hair pulled into a messy bun, determined just to be the supportive best friend. But the moment she saw Marcus, her chest had tightened. He wasn't the boy she remembered. Broad shoulders stretched the seams of his shirt, and his once lanky frame now carried a dangerous strength. His amber eyes burned brighter than the neon signs overhead, and when he smiled at her, something deep in her chest twisted like a secret she'd buried too long. She'd promised herself tonight she would tell him. Tell him that she was tired of being invisible. That she wanted to be more than the girl he leaned on when his car broke down. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. It began with Brad Morrison, Crescent Falls' favorite bully. He stumbled toward Arya with whiskey on his breath and arrogance in his grin. "Hey, bookworm," he sneered, blocking her path to the bar. "You look lonely tonight. How about I keep you company?" Arya's skin prickled with unease. "No thanks, Brad." But his hand shot out, fingers curling around her wrist. Before she could react, Marcus was there. "Let her go." His voice was low, dangerous, nothing like the teasing tone she knew. Brad laughed, careless. "Relax, lover boy. She's not worth fighting over." That was the last thing he should have said. Marcus's eyes flashed amber. His grip on Brad's arm was inhumanly strong, veins bulging as if something inside him was fighting to break free. The entire bar went silent, the jukebox sputtering to a stop. And then Arya saw them. Fangs. Sharp and white, flashing beneath the dim lights. Her breath caught. Marcus shoved Brad backward with a force that sent him crashing into a table, glasses shattering around him. Gasps echoed. People whispered. "Monster. Freak." Marcus's chest heaved as though he was holding something back, his body trembling. For one terrifying moment, he locked eyes with Arya. And in that gaze, she saw not just Marcus, but something wild, untamed, feral. Then he bolted. Out of the bar. Into the night. And without thinking, Arya followed. The forest swallowed her whole, branches clawing at her arms as she chased the sound of snapping twigs and ragged breaths. "Marcus," she cried, her voice breaking. The air was thick with the metallic scent of blood and the primal energy of the moon. She found him kneeling in a clearing, his hands digging into the dirt as his back arched unnaturally. "Go back." His voice was guttural, barely human. But she couldn't. She wouldn't. His bones cracked, reshaping under his skin. Muscles bulged, tendons stretched. His shirt tore down the middle as his body contorted into something monstrous. Arya's heart pounded, fear and awe colliding in her chest. The boy she'd known for 16 years was gone. In his place stood a massive silver-gray wolf, fur bristling under the blood moon's glow. His eyes, still Marcus's eyes, glowed with an intensity that rooted her to the spot. The wolf let out a guttural snarl, but when Arya stumbled backward, he stepped between her and the forest's shadows. Only then did she see them. Shapes moving in the trees. Yellow eyes watching. Another pack. The rival wolves crept forward, lips curled, claws sinking into the soil. Their leader, a hulking brute with scars crisscrossing his muzzle, growled low. "She's human," he sneered. "Useless. Hand her over, Ashwood." Arya froze. Ashwood. The name from the diary. Marcus's bloodline. The wolf in front of her, Marcus, growled so deep the earth seemed to tremble. His fur bristled, teeth bared in a challenge. The rival wolves lunged. Arya's scream split the night as Marcus launched himself into the fray. Claws tore through flesh, teeth sank into fur, the forest erupting into chaos. Arya pressed her back against the oak, heart racing, tears streaming down her face. But even in wolf form, Marcus fought like more than an animal. He fought with purpose. Every move placed him between her and danger, every strike meant to keep her safe. One by one, the rival wolves retreated into the shadows, their snarls fading into the night. Blood streaked Marcus's fur, but he stood tall, chest heaving, eyes fixed on her. And for the first time, she didn't see her best friend. She didn't even see a monster. She saw an alpha. When the silence returned, Marcus padded slowly toward her. His enormous form loomed, but his glowing eyes softened. He lowered his head, pressing his snout gently against her trembling hand. Her breath hitched. Marcus. Her fear melted into something else. Something forbidden. Something electric. The mate bond was awakening. And it terrified her more than anything else ever had. The forest was quiet again. Not the eerie silence of danger, but the stillness that follows a storm. The blood moon had finally sunk below the horizon, leaving Crescent Falls bathed in a pale morning light. Arya sat at the base of the oak tree where everything had changed. Her sweater, torn at the sleeves, was draped over something she still couldn't quite believe. Marcus. Not the wolf. Not the glowing-eyed alpha. Just Marcus. Naked, bruised, shivering, and human again. She had stayed there all night. Too afraid to leave him. Too shaken to sleep. Her heart had thundered every time his wolf form prowled the perimeter, every growl reminding her that she was now tangled in something far bigger than small-town heartbreak. And then, just before dawn, the wolf had collapsed. His massive body trembled, bones cracking, for retreating until he was human again. Now, he lay curled against the roots, his broad chest rising and falling with uneven breaths. Arya's jacket barely covered him, but it was all she could do. She had turned her eyes away, cheeks burning, though her heart betrayed her with every quickened beat. This was Marcus. Her Marcus. Her best friend. And yet, when she looked at him now, she couldn't ignore what else he had become. Arya, his voice rasped, raw from the night's violence. Her head snapped toward him. His eyes, no longer glowing, just the warm amber she knew, blinked open. "You're awake." Relief softened her voice, but anger simmered just beneath it. He winced as he pushed himself upright, clutching her jacket tighter around his hips. "I didn't want you to see that." She swallowed hard. Too late. For a long moment, silence stretched between them, filled only by birdsong and the rustle of leaves. Finally, Arya broke it. "What are you, Marcus?" What was that?" His jaw tightened. He looked away, toward the tree-line where blood still stained the soil. What I should have told you months ago. Arya hugged her knees, trying to steady her trembling. Start talking. He took a deep breath, as though the confession itself weighed more than any fight he'd endured. My family, we're not just mechanics, Arya. We're not just small-town nobodies. We're Ashwoods. The last bloodline of the Blackwood pack. Her pulse quickened. The diary's words flashed in her mind. On the 23rd year, beneath the blood moon, the Alpha will rise again. You're saying, you're a werewolf. His lips quirked, humorless. Saying it out loud doesn't make it sound any less insane, does it? She shook her head, tears prickling at her eyes. Marcus, this isn't a joke. I'm not joking. His gaze locked onto hers, intense, unwavering. You saw me. You know it's real. Her heart hammered. She had seen him. She had felt his massive form pressed against her hand, had looked into glowing eyes that still somehow felt like home. But why hide it from me? Why pretend you're just normal? Because I wanted to be. His voice cracked, soft with honesty. With you, I wanted to just be Marcus. The guy who fixed your bike. The guy who read comics with you under the covers when your aunt yelled. The guy you trusted. Her throat tightened. And now? He hesitated. Now my wolf doesn't want to pretend anymore. The air grew thick between them, charged with something unspoken. What does that even mean? She whispered. His jaw flexed. He looked at her as though she was the only thing keeping him tethered to this world. It means you're mine, Arya. My mate. My wolf chose you long before my human side realized it. Her breath caught, as though his words struck something deep inside her she hadn't known existed. Mate. The word rang in her bones. That's not fair, she whispered, her voice breaking. You don't get to just decide that. It wasn't me. His voice was rough, desperate. It's fate. The bond. I've been fighting it for months, trying to keep my distance, trying not to scare you. But last night, when Brad touched you, I couldn't hold back anymore. Her stomach twisted. Images of the bar flashed in her mind, of Marcus's fury, his glowing eyes, the raw violence. She should have been afraid. Terrified. But when she looked at him now, trembling beneath her sweater, vulnerability written across his face, all she felt was the pull. She tried to fight it. Tried to remind herself of every reason this was impossible. He nearly killed a man, she thought. He's dangerous, her heart whispered. He's not just Marcus anymore. And yet, every breath she drew was filled with his scent, that strange mixture of cedar and storm that calmed and ignited her all at once. Her body ached with awareness, every nerve alive when he so much as glanced at her. The mate bond was real. She could feel it, gnawing at her resolve, whispering that she belonged to him. Marcus must have seen the war in her eyes, because he reached for her, hesitated, then let his hand fall back to his lap. I'll never force you, he said quietly. You're free to walk away, Arya. But if you stay, if you accept this, it means forever. No going back. Forever. The word both terrified and thrilled her. She wanted to scream at him. She wanted to run. She wanted to throw her arms around him and never let go. Instead, she whispered, barely audible, I don't know if I can handle forever. His chest rose and fell with a shudder. Then just handle today. Handle me, right here, right now. That's all I'm asking. The world seemed to narrow, just the two of them in the clearing, the rest of Crescent Falls forgotten. Arya's hand trembled as she reached forward, brushing against his arm. His skin was warm, his muscles taut beneath her touch. He sucked in a breath, eyes darkening with something primal. It would be so easy to give in. To surrender. But before she could, voices echoed through the forest, sharp, unfamiliar, closing in fast. Marcus stiffened, his head snapping toward the sound. We're not alone. The fragile moment shattered. And Arya realized the night's horrors had only been the beginning. The path to the Blackwood compound wound deep into the forest, where sunlight broke through in golden shards. To Arya, every step felt heavier than the last. Marcus walked beside her, his hand brushing hers as though he wanted to steady her, but his jaw was set tight, his eyes scanning the trees for threats. He hadn't spoken much since the blood moon night. And neither had she. Because what could she say? That she couldn't stop thinking about his touch. That she woke up aching with the memory of his wolf pressing close, protecting her, claiming her without words? No. Some things were too dangerous to admit. The compound came into view like something torn from myth. Timber lodges circled a massive fire pit, their roofs etched with ancient carvings. Wolves padded between cabins, their fur catching the morning light, while others, men and women, watched her with suspicion. Whispers rose instantly. The human. Is that her? She'll get him killed. Arya's stomach twisted. She was used to being invisible in Crescent Falls. Now, under the burning weight of 100 eyes, she would have given anything to disappear again. Marcus's hand found her back, steadying, protective. Ignore them, he murmured. But ignoring wasn't possible when the whispers cut sharper than knives. They reached the great hall, where long tables stretched beneath antler chandeliers. At the head stood Elena Blackwood, Marcus's grandmother, the last alpha female before his rise. Elena's silver hair was braided like a crown, her posture unyielding, her gaze sharp enough to pierce stone. She looked at Arya, then down, then back up again, as though measuring every ounce of her worth. So, Elena said, her voice cold and clear. This is the mate fate has chosen for you. Marcus's shoulders squared. Yes. She's mine. Elena's eyes narrowed on Arya. She's human. Weak. You'll regret this, boy. The hall murmured in agreement. Some with pity, others with scorn. Arya's chest burned. She wanted to run, but Marcus's hand tightened against her back, grounding her. She's stronger than you think, he said firmly. Elena's lips curved in the faintest smirk. We'll see. The days that followed were a blur of trials, both subtle and cruel. Every morning, Marcus trained with the warriors, his body glistening with sweat as he sparred under the sun. Arya tried not to stare too long, but it was impossible not to notice how much stronger he'd become since his shift. And she wasn't the only one noticing. Scarlet, the beta's daughter, slinked around the training grounds in dresses too tight, her eyes never leaving Marcus. Your mate's distracted, she purred one afternoon, twirling a dagger between her fingers. Perhaps he needs someone with experience to keep him focused. Arya's blood boiled. Stay away from him. Scarlet's smirk. Mine. The word was low, fierce, leaving no space for argument. Her heart stuttered. Marcus leaned closer, his hand brushing against hers. You're not just anything, Arya. My wolf doesn't want Scarlet. Or anyone else. He only wants you. Her lips parted, but no words came. The mate bond pulsed between them, hot and undeniable, stealing her breath. Still, doubt clung to her. Then prove it. The next morning, the pack gathered for sparring trials. Elena watched from her carved oak chair, her expression unreadable. When Scarlet strutted forward, challenging Marcus to a mock duel, whispers filled the circle. This will prove it. She'll outshine the human without lifting a finger. Marcus didn't move. Instead, he turned to Arya, offering his hand. Gasps rippled through the crowd. "She fights with me," he declared. Arya's blood ran cold. "Marcus, I..." But his eyes locked onto hers, steady and sure. "Trust me." The bond flared between them, wild and dangerous. Against her better judgment, she stepped into the ring. The wolves laughed, some openly, some behind their hands. Scarlet sneered, twirling her dagger again. But when Marcus guided Arya's stance, his hand firm on her waist, heat coursed through her veins. Every whisper faded. Every doubt burned away. She wasn't invisible anymore. And as Marcus faced the pack with her at his side, Arya realized something terrifying, exhilarating, and inescapable. This was only the beginning. The first sign of trouble came with the wind. Arya was stacking books in the nursery when a chill ran through her. The pups whimpered, pressing close to her skirts. Even before the howl split the sky, she knew something was wrong. By the time she reached the training grounds, the entire pack had gathered. Warriors stood tense, weapons gleaming under the morning sun. At the far edge of the clearing, a group of strangers emerged from the trees. The Drakemore pack. At their head strode Victor Drakemore, taller even than Marcus, with broad shoulders and a cruel smile carved into his lips. His wolf aura rolled across the grounds like smoke, suffocating and heavy. And his eyes, green as serpent's glass, locked instantly on her. Marcus stepped forward, his voice cold steel. "Victor." Victor spread his arms, mock-friendly. "Marcus. Or should I say, Alpha Blackwood now. Congratulations on surviving your shift. Not every cursed bloodline manages it." Growls rippled through the Blackwood wolves, but Marcus held steady. "State your business." Victor's gaze slid lazily to Arya, lingering in a way that made her stomach knot. He sniffed the air, lips curling. "So it's true," he said softly, almost reverently. "Your maid is human." The pack erupted in whispers. Arya's cheeks burned as the weight of every eye fell on her again. Marcus's body stiffened beside her. "Watch your tongue." Victor ignored him, taking a slow step closer. "She smells intoxicating. I can see why you'd want to keep her. Though I must say..." His grin widened, sharp as a blade. "She looks delicate. Breakable." Arya's heart pounded. She wanted to shrink away, but Marcus's hand caught hers, grounding her with a squeeze so tight it almost hurt. "She's not yours to look at," Marcus growled. Victor tilted his head. "Protective already. How sweet. But tell me, Marcus, will she last long under an alpha's claim? Or will she run back to her little bookstore once she realizes what she's tied to?" Scarlet, standing near the front, smirked at Arya as if agreeing with every poisonous word. Arya's throat burned, but she forced herself to meet Victor's gaze. "I'm not afraid of you." The word surprised even her. They came out stronger than she expected, laced with a courage she hadn't felt before. Victor's laughter echoed across the clearing. "Ah, fire in her. That will make it interesting." Marcus stepped forward, blocking Victor's view of her completely. His wolf stirred beneath his skin. Arya could feel the heat radiating from him. "You've made your point," Marcus said, voice rumbling low. "Leave." Victor leaned close, his grin never fading. "I will. For now. But remember, Marcus, the moon favors the strong. If you can't protect her, someone else will." His eyes darted to Arya one last time, a silent promise of danger, before he turned and disappeared into the trees with his pack. The silence that followed was deafening. Back in the safety of the lodge, Marcus paced like a caged animal. His eyes glowed faintly, his wolf still restless. Arya sat by the fire, clutching a blanket around her shoulders. He wasn't just here to talk. No, Marcus said sharply. He was testing me. Testing us. And he liked what he saw. His fists clenched. I should have ripped his throat out. Arya swallowed hard. But you didn't. His head snapped toward her. Because if I had, you'd have seen the monster Victor wants you to fear. The raw anguish in his voice startled her. She rose, crossing to him. Slowly, carefully, she placed her hand over his clenched fist. You're not a monster, Marcus. His eyes searched hers, desperate, disbelieving. You don't know what I am capable of when it comes to you. She held her ground. Then show me. Not with rage. With trust. The bond pulsed between them, pulling tighter, hotter. Marcus's breath hitched as he cupped her cheek, his thumb brushing her skin like he was afraid she'd vanish. They'll come for you, he whispered. Victor won't stop. Every wolf in this territory will want to test me, to take what's mine. Her heart hammered, but she didn't flinch. Then let them try. I'm not leaving you. The words seemed to break something inside him. With a growl, Marcus pulled her against his chest, burying his face in her hair. His body trembled, not with fury this time, but with the desperate need to hold on. For the first time, Arya felt not just his strength, but his fear. And it made her want to fight twice as hard. Later that night, as the fire crackled low, Marcus finally stilled. His voice was ragged when he spoke. You're not just mine, Arya. You're this pack's future. And I'll kill anyone who tries to take you away. Her heart ached at the fierce promise in his tone. She knew it was only the beginning. Victor's eyes had marked her as surely as Marcus's claim. But as Marcus pressed a tender kiss to her forehead, Arya realized something Victor could never understand. She wasn't breakable. Not anymore. Because she wasn't standing alone. Morning light spilled across the training grounds, catching the edges of wooden weapons stacked against the wall. Arya hesitated at the edge, arms folded tightly around herself. The stares were there again, sharp, cutting. Some of the wolves whispered openly, their eyes full of disdain. A human. Weak. Unworthy. Marcus stood in the center, already in motion. His shirt clung to him, sweat glistening as he sparred with two warriors at once. Each move was precise, brutal, commanding. He wasn't just Marcus anymore. He was the alpha. And yet when his gaze cut toward her, just for a second, she swore she saw the boy she'd grown up with. Come, he called, tossing one of the wooden staffs her way. If you're going to stay, you need to learn to fight. The staff nearly slipped from her fingers. I don't. You will, he said simply. His tone wasn't harsh, but there was no room for argument. Training was hell. Every time she raised the weapon, Marcus corrected her. His hands on her hips, guiding her stance. His chest brushing her back when he adjusted her grip. The heat of his body so close it sent her pulse racing. Lower your shoulders. His breath was warm against her ear. Don't fight the weapon. Become part of it. She tried to focus, she really did, but the bond crackled every time he touched her. Sparks ran under her skin, stealing her breath. When she managed a half-decent strike, Marcus's grin was quick and fierce. Good. Again. For a moment, pride swelled in her chest. Maybe she wasn't as weak as they all believed. But the moment shattered when Scarlet appeared. She strolled across the training yard, her crimson tunic clinging in ways that demanded attention. You're wasting your time, Marcus, she drawled. A human can't keep up with wolves. Arya's chest tightened. She knew Scarlet's type, beautiful, entitled, used to having everything handed to her. Marcus's voice was sharp. Leave. But Scarlet only smirked, her gaze sliding to Arya. Or maybe you're the one wasting your time. Surely an alpha deserves a Luna who can actually protect his pack. The wolves around them murmured, some nodding in agreement. Arya lowered her staff, heat rushing to her cheeks. Doubt gnawed at her again. Maybe Scarlet was right. Before she could step back, Marcus's hand shot out, steadying hers on the weapon. His voice thundered across the grounds. She stays. Scarlet's eyes narrowed. We'll see how long that lasts. With a toss of her hair, she stalked away, but not before flashing Marcus a smile that made Arya's blood boil. That night, Arya sat alone by the nursery fire, staring into the flames. Doubt twisted inside her like a knife. You're quiet, Marcus said, dropping down beside her. His presence filled the room, warm and suffocating all at once. She didn't look at him. Maybe Scarlet's right. Maybe I don't belong here. Marcus's hand closed around hers, firm, unyielding. Don't you dare believe that. She turned to him, frustration bursting free. Then why does every she-wolf look at me like I'm a mistake? Why do they all think you deserve better? His amber eyes burned, fierce and unrelenting. Because they don't know you like I do. His thumb brushed her knuckles, gentler now. They don't know the girl who spent her life caring for everyone but herself. The woman who risked everything to stand beside me. Her throat tightened. Marcus. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. Scarlet can throw herself at me all she wants. But my wolf only stirs for you. Only you. The bond pulsed, sharp and sweet, pulling them closer until their breaths mingled. His gaze flicked to her lips, and for a heartbeat she thought he would finally close the distance. Her heart thundered. Her lips parted. But then Marcus jerked back, dragging a hand over his face. Not yet. If I start, I won't be able to stop. The words left her dizzy. Wanting. The next morning, training resumed. Arya gripped her staff with new determination. Each correction, each touch from Marcus, set her blood on fire. She ignored the whispers. Ignored Scarlet's scorn. Because for the first time, she believed Marcus's words. She wasn't here because she was weak. She was here because fate had tied them together. And no rival's sneer or jealous glance would break what burned between them. Still, as she met Marcus's molten gaze across the training yard, one truth echoed louder than any whisper. Sooner or later, the fire between them would consume them both. The night was restless. Arya stood on the balcony of her chamber, the full moon painting the forest in silver. Below, the pack house was alive with murmurs, wolves returning from patrol, the clatter of weapons, the endless rhythm of life under Marcus's rule. But all she could hear was her own heartbeat. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw him, sweat-slicked from training, his hands guiding hers on the staff, his amber gaze devouring her in ways words never could. And every time she breathed, she swore she could feel the bond, tugging her toward him like a chain woven of fire and silk. A knock at the door broke the silence. Arya? His voice, deep, rough, and far too close to the edge. Her pulse leapt. She opened the door, and there he was. Marcus. Shirt half unbuttoned, hair damp from the bath, shoulders filling the doorway as though he were carved to block out the world. For a moment, neither spoke. The bond thrummed between them, wild and unrestrained. I shouldn't be here, he muttered, though his eyes said the opposite. Then why are you? She whispered back. His jaw flexed. Because every time I tell myself to stay away, I end up outside your door. The confession stole her breath. She stepped aside without thinking, and he entered, filling the chamber with heat. The door closed with a soft click. For a moment, they stood in silence, the air thick with unspoken words. Marcus's gaze traced her face, her lips, the curve of her throat where his wolf longed to mark her. "You drive me mad," he said finally, voice low. "Every look, every breath, every time another wolf dares to glance your way, I feel like I'll lose control." Her throat tightened. "Then don't hold back." His head snapped toward her, eyes blazing gold. "Arya." But she didn't let him finish. She stepped closer, close enough that her chest brushed his. Her fingers found the edge of his shirt, brushing against warm, scarred skin. "I'm not afraid of you, Marcus," she whispered. "Not of the wolf. Not of the man. The only thing I fear is you shutting me out." That broke him. With a growl that rumbled from deep within, he caught her face in his hands and crushed his mouth against hers. The kiss was everything, fierce, desperate, filled with months of restraint unraveling in a single heartbeat. Arya gasped against him, but her body answered, fire racing through her veins. His hands slid to her waist, pulling her against him, lifting her as though she weighed nothing. She clung to him, her fingers tangling in his damp hair, her heart hammering wildly. The bond flared like lightning, sparking through every nerve. She could feel his wolf beneath his skin, pressing closer, demanding, claiming. "Mine," he growled against her lips. "You're mine, Arya." Her own voice trembled, half moan, half defiance. "Then prove it." He laid her gently against the bed, his massive frame hovering over her, muscles taut with restraint. His lips trailed fire down her throat, stopping at the place where his mark would one day rest. Every part of her screamed to let him finish, to surrender completely. But even as her body burned, her mind whispered of the risk, of the pack, of Victor's threats, of the world beyond their door. Marcus pulled back suddenly, chest heaving, eyes glowing like molten gold. "If I keep going, I won't be able to stop. And when I claim you, there will be no undoing it." Her lips trembled. "Maybe that's what I want." He groaned, burying his face in her neck. "You don't understand. They'll come for you harder than ever once you bear my mark. Victor won't stop until he tears you from me." Arya cupped his face, forcing him to look at her. "Then let them try. I'd rather face the whole world with you than hide in fear without you." For a moment, silence. Only their ragged breaths and the pounding of their hearts. Then, just as he lowered his head again, a horn shattered the night. Marcus stiffened instantly, every muscle coiled. "What is it?" she whispered. His eyes went cold, alpha sharp. "Victor. He's testing the borders." The heat between them snapped into smoke and steel. He rose, grabbing his discarded shirt, his body shifting into battle readiness with terrifying ease. But before he left, he caught her face again, softer this time. "This isn't over." Her chest heaved. "It never will be." And then he was gone, the echo of his growl fading into the night, leaving Arya trembling on the bed, her lips swollen with his kiss and her heart ablaze with a truth she could no longer deny. She loved him. And if Victor thought he could take her, he would learn the fire in her was just as fierce as the alpha's. The horn's call still echoed when Marcus stormed through the packhouse doors. Arya followed, heart racing, every nerve still raw from their kiss. The night air bit sharp against her skin, but the heat of adrenaline drowned it out. Wolves were already assembling in the courtyard, shifting, growling, snapping teeth. The scent of blood and smoke carried on the wind. Marcus's voice thundered above the chaos. "Drake more wolves at the east border. Warriors with me. Guard the pups. No one else leaves the grounds." His command rolled like thunder, and the pack obeyed without hesitation. But Arya couldn't stay behind. Not this time. She grabbed a bough from the rack near the door, her hands trembling. Marcus's eyes caught hers, blazing with fury. "You're not coming." Her chest rose, breathless. "Try and stop me." The ride to the border was a blur, wolves sprinting through underbrush, paws pounding earth like war drums. Arya clung to Marcus's back on horseback, the wind tearing at her hair. The closer they drew, the thicker the scent of Drakemore wolves became, wrought in iron, foul enough to choke. And then they burst into the clearing. The battle was already underway. Wolves clashed in a frenzy of teeth and claws, shadows and silver fur tearing through the night. The forest floor shook with snarls and the metallic tang of blood. Arya leapt from the horse, bow ready, heart in her throat. She spotted one of Marcus's warriors pinned beneath a black-furred wolf. Without thinking, she loosed an arrow. It struck true, sending the attacker howling into the trees. The warrior scrambled up, giving her a stunned look before charging back into the fight. Victor stood at the center, towering in half-shifted form, his body monstrous, eyes glowing with feral green light. He looked straight at Marcus, ignoring the carnage around him. "Blackwood." His voice carried like a storm. "Bring me the girl, and I'll spare the rest." Victor fought viciously, but blood poured from his wounds. With a final, thunderous slam, Marcus pinned him, jaws at his throat. The clearing went silent. Every wolf waited for the killing blow. Victor's eyes burned into Arya's, a twisted smile curving his bloody lips. "This isn't over." Marcus's jaws tightened, but at the last second, he released him, throwing him into the dirt. "Run. And tell every wolf who listens, if you ever touch what's mine, I'll end you." Victor staggered back, snarling, before vanishing into the trees with the last of his pack. Silence lingered, broken only by the panting of exhausted warriors. Marcus shifted back, blood streaking his bare chest, his breath ragged. Arya rushed to him, pressing her hands against the wounds, tears stinging her eyes. "You're hurt." "I'm alive because of you," he growled, catching her wrists before she could pull away. His eyes burned, molten and fierce. "You stood your ground. You saved me." Her lips trembled. "I thought I lost you." His hand cupped her cheek, thumb brushing away her tears, his body trembling from pain and passion alike. "You never will. Not while I breathe." And though blood stained the ground around them, though danger still lingered beyond the trees, Arya felt the fire of victory flare in her chest. They had survived. Together. The pack house was heavy with the scent of blood and smoke when Arya helped Marcus inside. His weight pressed against her shoulder, every step a reminder of the wounds clawed deep into his side. The warriors parted silently, their eyes wide. They had seen their alpha bleed, but they had also seen him triumph. And they had seen the human who refused to run. Arya guided him to his chamber, her heart hammering as she lowered him onto the bed. His skin was pale beneath the streaks of crimson, his breaths ragged. "You should rest," she whispered, grabbing a basin of water and clean cloth. He caught her wrist before she could move. His grip was weak, but his eyes still burned molten gold. "Stay. Don't leave me." She swallowed hard, forcing back the lump in her throat. "I'm not going anywhere." Carefully, she cleaned the gashes, her hands trembling as blood stained the cloth. Every hiss from him tore at her chest, but he didn't pull away. "You shouldn't have been out there," Marcus muttered, voice rough. "Victor's wolves could have killed you." Her jaw tightened. "And if I'd stayed behind, they might have killed you. Do you think I could live with that?" His gaze lifted to hers, sharp even through pain. "You put yourself in danger because of me." "I put myself in danger because I chose to," she snapped, surprising them both. Her voice softened after a beat. You keep talking like I'm fragile, Marcus. Like I'll break if the wind blows too hard. But I'm stronger than you think. Stronger because of you. For a moment, silence. Then, slowly, the corners of his mouth curved into a faint, pained smile. You're fire, Arya. I should have known you'd burn anyone who tried to cage you. Her hands paused over his wounds, her breath catching at the way he said her name. It wasn't just admiration, it was hunger. The mate bond pulsed again, alive between them, crackling in the air. She could feel it tugging at her, drawing her closer, until her knees brushed the edge of the bed and her body leaned into his without thought. Marcus, she whispered. His hand rose, shaky but sure, cupping her cheek. Every time you look at me like that, I lose a little more control. Then stop fighting it. The words tumbled out before she could swallow them back. He groaned low, his thumb brushing her lips, his body trembling. If I claim you now, I won't be gentle. My wolf wants to mark you, brand you so no one will ever look at you the way Victor did. Her pulse hammered. Then let him. The air between them snapped like a storm breaking. Marcus surged forward, pulling her into his lap with a growl that rumbled through his chest. His mouth crashed onto hers, fierce and desperate, the taste of iron and fire mingling as his hands gripped her like she was his only anchor. Arya clung to him, her fingers threading through his hair, her body answering with equal hunger. Every kiss deepened, every touch seared hotter, until the world beyond the chamber disappeared. The wounds, the battle, Victor, all forgotten in the blaze of need. His lips trailed down her neck, pausing over the place where his mark would one day be. She shuddered, arching into him, her breath breaking. Mine, he whispered against her skin. You're mine, Arya. No one else. Her heart clenched, torn between surrender and fear of what came after. But when his teeth grazed her pulse, she realized the truth she could no longer hide. I've always been yours, she breathed. But before the moment could tip into forever, his body shuddered violently. The pain of his wounds surged back, ripping him from the haze of desire. He collapsed against her, chest heaving, blood seeping fresh through the bandages. Arya caught him, heart lurching in panic. Marcus. He groaned, clenching his jaw. I'm fine. No, you're not, she snapped, pressing him back onto the bed. Tears blurred her vision as she pressed harder against the wounds. You almost died out there. And now you're trying to kill yourself again. His hand caught hers, weak but insistent. I'd face Victor 1,000 times if it meant keeping you safe. Her chest broke at the raw sincerity in his voice. She bent low, pressing her forehead to his. Then don't die for me. Live for me. The fire between them dimmed into something steadier, deeper. His breathing slowed, his grip loosening as exhaustion finally dragged him under. Arya stayed by his side, refusing to move even as the candles burned low. She stroked his hair back from his brow, whispering words she wasn't ready to say aloud. Because in that moment, as the alpha lay wounded in her arms, she knew the truth. Danger would never stop coming for them. But neither would her love. The night air reeked of smoke and iron. Arya stood on the packhouse balcony, her hands gripping the railing until her knuckles ached. Marcus had slept fitfully, his wounds healing but not whole. She hadn't moved from his side until the horn blasted again, low, grim, final. Victor had returned. This time, there would be no retreat. The pack gathered in the clearing, a sea of fur and muscle, eyes glinting under the moonlight. Marcus strode to the front, his bare chest still scarred but his posture unyielding. Every step radiated alpha. Arya moved with him, though her heart thundered. Whispers rippled through the crowd, the human shouldn't be here, she'll only get him killed. But Marcus didn't flinch. His hand found hers, and in that moment the whispers died. Victor emerged from the treeline, his wolves flanking him like shadows. His smile was cruel, his eyes blazing with the hunger of conquest. "This ends tonight," Victor snarled. "The Blackwood name dies with you." Marcus's wolf surged beneath his skin, ready to tear and kill. "Come and try." The battle erupted in an instant. Wolves collided like thunder, snarls and screams filling the night. Claws slashed, teeth tore, blood splattered the dirt. The Drakemore wolves fought with savage desperation, but the Blackwood pack met them head-on. At the center, Marcus and Victor clashed, alpha against alpha. Their wolves were titans, silver-gray and coal-black, locked in a storm of fury. Every strike shook the ground, every roar echoed through the forest. Arya fired arrows from the ridge, each shot finding its mark. But when Victor's wolves pushed too close, she abandoned the bow and grabbed a fallen spear. Her arms burned, but she refused to back down. She wasn't fragile anymore. She was fire. Then Victor shifted fully, towering over Marcus, his jaws snapping toward Arya. She froze as his massive shadow fell over her. Marcus's roar split the air. In a heartbeat, he barreled into Victor, tearing him away before his fangs could touch her. Their bodies collided with bone-crushing force, rolling across the ground in a frenzy of teeth and blood. "Marcus!" Arya screamed, rushing forward. Victor pinned him, claws pressing toward his throat. His green eyes gleamed with triumph. "She'll never be yours. She'll die before she bears your mark." Something inside Arya broke. No. The mate bond surged like lightning, exploding in her veins. She dropped the spear, pressing both hands to Marcus's chest, pouring every ounce of will into him. "You're mine," she whispered fiercely. "And I won't let him take you." Marcus's eyes snapped open, glowing brighter than the moon itself. Power surged through him, her strength, her fire, her choice. With a roar that shook the earth, he threw Victor off, rising with renewed fury. The fight turned. Blow after blow, Marcus drove Victor back, each strike fueled by the bond now blazing between him and Arya. At last, with a final, bone-crunching slam, Marcus pinned Victor beneath his claws, jaws poised at his throat. The clearing fell silent. Victor spat blood, his grin fading at last. "Finish it." But Marcus didn't. His wolf pulled back just enough to make his message clear. "You will crawl back to your shadows and tell every pack what you saw. The Blackwood line is stronger than ever. And if you return, you die." Victor's eyes flicked to Arya, still blazing with defiance, before he slunk away into the trees with what remained of his pack. The war was over. Marcus shifted back, bloodied but unbroken, his chest heaving. The pack howled in victory, their cries rolling into the night. But Arya saw only him. She ran to his side, throwing her arms around him, tears burning her eyes. "You can't keep scaring me like that," she whispered. His arms locked around her, his body trembling. "You saved me, Arya. You saved us both." And then, in front of the entire pack, he tilted her chin and pressed his lips to hers. The bond flared, igniting every nerve, searing her soul with his. When his teeth grazed her throat, she didn't flinch. She bared her neck, surrendering not in weakness but in choice. The mark sank into her skin with fire and ecstasy, binding them forever. The pack roared, their howls echoing in celebration. No longer whispers of doubt. No longer disdain. Only recognition. Their alpha had claimed his mate. And their Luna was human, fierce, unbreakable, chosen by fate. Later, when the fires burned low and the wolves rested, Marcus held her close beneath the stars. "You were never weak," he murmured into her hair. You were always the strongest thing in my world. Arya smiled, her hand pressed to the mark at her throat. And you were always mine, even before the moon decided it. Above them, the full moon shone bright, bearing silent witness to their bond. The war had ended. But their story had only just begun.